Hello, hello, hello. Okay, how's that, everyone? I switched to software encoding, so it's going to be a little hot in here. But I've got the computer to do it, so. I mean, the windows are open, so. Hello, hello. Let me know you can hear me. Looks okay. I don't know if you saw the false starts on Twitch, but I didn't actually auto start YouTube, so I think YouTube got to wait until I had the video going okay. Good afternoon. We hear you. Thank you, Rich. I was trying to start early for that reason, so we're not too late. And we can sit tight and see how everything goes. Let me say some hellos. Hello, Tithe. Hello, Neradoc. Hello, Jim. Hello, Rich. Hello, M4TK. Hello, Beata. Hello, Aoki. I hope I didn't butcher it too bad. Thanks for stopping by. It's been a minute since I've streamed, so this is exciting. Hopefully I don't have chocolate in my teeth. Do I? Yeah, it's been a while. All right, well, I guess we'll get going and we can... Hello, Seagrover. We'll probably pick people up. Hi, Omni. If you don't know, my name is Scott. I work for Adafruit on CircuitPython. Adafruit is an open source hardware and software company based out of New York City. I work remotely for them, though, so I'm actually in Seattle here. Let's see. It's been a while. CircuitPython is Python for all sorts of embedded devices. Not that one. Here, for example, is a ESP module here. So under here is a little tiny CPU, little tiny computer, and CircuitPython brings one of my favorite programming languages, Python, to that as well. More hellos here while we're going. Hello, Deshipu. Hello, Andrew. Hello, Rish. Hello, Yanni. And hello, Keith the EE. Got to dip out, but hope everything's having a good day, a great weekend. Thank you, Keith. So, I used to do deep dive streams starting in the pandemic, and then I was on paternity leave because my partner and I had a son. And so Tim, Foamy Guy, has taken over the deep dives for me, which has been awesome. But Tim is taking vacation this weekend, and I was like, oh, if you're taking vacation, I'll guest host Deep Dive this week because I do miss it, but I'm about to take more paternity leave in a couple weeks, so I didn't want to start getting anything regular going until then, or until I'm here for a while. Hello, Andy. Hello, Charles, and hello again. Rich is posting stuff, and hello, Salvor. I think I've missed you as well. So we have two chats on the side here, not the side, the side. We have the Discord chat and the YouTube chat. If you're on the YouTube chat and would love to join the Discord, we'd like to see you there. You could go to adafru.it/Discord. That'll jump you into that. Hello, Lord. Brain. I have not gotten enough sleep compared to what I used to get. So yeah, I work on CircuitPython for Adafruit. I used to do deep dives. It's been a little while. I thought I would talk a little bit about, for those of you who have done or watched deep dives before, I don't plan on actually taking deep dives back over. I'm not sure what my schedule is going to look like come January when both myself and my partner are back at work. And so I am planning on doing a stream on a weekly basis at some point during the week, but it's going to have to line up with when we kind of have reliable childcare for the kiddo. So I'll probably do like tentatively, I'm thinking like an office hour where I would do like an hour and we just talk about things that people want to have questions about. So I am going to shoot to do 2 hours today, although I was joking that I might fall asleep during it because I'm a little sleep deprived. Could be way worse. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, and that will be in the new year is when I'll start regularly streaming again, when we have kind of a more consistent schedule. Until then, you can find me on the Discord if you have questions. Something like a year in total, but 5 months first year and half a year at second grade. Nice. Yeah, paternity leave is something that everybody should take. It's really wonderful to get to know the tiny human that just grows and grows and grows. So yeah, I'll be taking 12 weeks starting after CircuitPython Day. So I will be out in a couple weeks, and then I will be back in November, mid-November. So that'll be really cool. Don't worry, there are other people that are very capable to take care of CircuitPython while I'm out. And I already took 6 weeks before, so we know that's true. Andy says, as a father of 3, just embrace the sleep deprivation. It doesn't get much better. Yeah, it's really not. It could be way worse. Like, my son's Ari, and Ari slept like 9 hours last night, which is pretty good. It just ended at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., something like that. And I did not go to bed when he did, so could be worse. But yeah, it's definitely worth it. I do hope that the sleep deprivation will get better, but we'll see. Yeah, so if folks have questions, I'm happy to just chat questions. I do find this is a good way for me to cover technical topics around CircuitPython and stuff in general. So I'm happy to do that. So if you want to support me and support Adafruit, you can go to adafruit.com for that as well. Combat nap 20 minutes will provide a welcome refresh. It says Clippership. Yeah, before the stream I chose to take a shower, and then I was like sitting in a chair and I was like, I'm kind of tired. I was like, maybe I should have done a nap instead of a shower, but I definitely, like, in the first week or two of having the kid, it was like I took a nap, but I set an alarm and I woke up at like the exact wrong time. It was terrible. So, hey, Paul. Yep. Rich confirms that the CircuitPython core team and other volunteers are super helpful on the forums and Discord. I try not to get sleep deprivation for my job, but occasionally there's just projects and stuff that are in my mind, and that's going to be true even through paternity leave and stuff like that. But yes, I need a primer/tutorial on how to do math with tuples. Beata, could you be more specific? It might be something more like Microlab, and yeah, Clippership says both works. Shower provides a refresh well worth having. And I took some time to take a shower like last week or something. Like, I'm not showering every day like I used to, but I like I figured out 2 bugs in the shower. I was like, Adafruit should pay me to shower. Like, I get stuff done. So yeah. A fool sleeps when he's tired, a wise man sleeps when he can. Yeah. I was trying to do that especially early on, and my schedule has shifted a lot already, so I do try to do that. All right, we have our first question. Ty says, what's exciting you recently in the world of MicroPython that you're keen to try or adopt into CircuitPython? Ooh, that's a good question. I've not been super paying attention to MicroPython stuff. We're actually going to meet with Damien and Jim next week. but I haven't been following a lot of what they were doing. PicoW is obviously something that we want to support, that MicroPython supports. But that's a complicated thing that somebody did ask us to talk about, and I know Rich is working on as well, so we'll probably talk about that today. I was originally excited. MicroPython 1.18 redid the MPY format, so the MPYs are like this precompiled version of Python, and they redid it with the goal of being able to run, with the goal of being able to run code from MPYs while they stayed on disk, which I think is a really cool and neat idea. There is a huge caveat in what they're thinking, and this is not actually complete in 1.19, so it's like something in 1.20 maybe, but it had the caveat that on disk had to mean a special file system that kept the files kind of contiguous still. So that was like a huge caveat that I wasn't willing to do for CircuitPython, because we rely heavily on FATFS, which doesn't provide guarantees about the block ordering. So yeah, I was excited about the idea of being able to not have to load libraries into RAM, but not there yet. I've got lots of other things that I'm interested in, but I haven't looked in depth on what is latest and greatest in MicroPython land. Yep, Rich is diving deep into adding the PicoW port from MicroPython latest. Beata says, rainbow.colorWheel is specific. I want to scale the value down and then add the W channel. Some terms to look up. I mean, basically, tuples are immutable, so you'll probably want to do something like a list comprehension and then pack it back together. I don't think there's a much more elegant way to do it than probably what you're doing already, though. Deshupa says, if we could use USB MTP, then we could use any file system we wanted, if only Apple supported it. Yeah, but I think, and this kind of gets on the main topic that I did ask people earlier in the week when I was like, oh, I'll stream this week, what should I cover? And I heard a lot about the web workflow, which I would love to talk about today. But I think what we'll start to see with CircuitPython is we'll actually start to see more and more people using it without USB. And if they're not using USB, there is a world where we could think about using a different file system. That's a pretty big change, and that's certainly not going to be in the next major version of CircuitPython. The next one is CircuitPython 8. But it is something we could think about in the future for the boards that don't use FATFS, or don't use like native USB mass storage. Then we could think about doing. We could think about doing something else. Do we have a tiny web server? We do have a tiny web server. Should we jump into web workflow stuff? I'm still also, if you've seen me do deep dives before, you know that I can go, great, tuple list comprehension. Yeah, there's list comprehensions and there's generators, which are a little bit different as well. But yeah, so I forget. Type, I think, asked about stuff excited in MicroPython. And I spent a lot of time dreaming about what CircuitPython could do. Oh, Dishipu says, I wonder if on-disk bitmap would be faster than 2. Perhaps. One thing with on-disk bitmap is that you know how it's dramatically different whether you're going the right way or the wrong way, or like rotated. There's a worst case in on-disk bitmap where you're picking out one pixel and then having to do a full load. Like if we could optimize FATFS where it didn't load. So every time, like FATFS has a notion of a window of 512 bytes. And if you're doing one pixel, you're actually loading 512 bytes every pixel if you're going the wrong direction. So that's the worst case for on this bitmap. There's a world where you could modify the fat code to not load 512, but just load the byte you want because you know you're going to seek immediately afterwards. But that's a pretty detailed optimization. Comwork.io says, is there a way to run CircuitPython in a web browser with WASM? There's not, but MicroPython for a while did support that. So it's not like super out of the question. It's really not what we're going for though. However, with the web workflow stuff that I'm going to show off here shortly, you can do a lot of stuff by interacting with a CircuitPython device over HTTP, which will be cool. Ty says it's so good the Whiskey server. I've got an access point running a web server controlling a boat joystick on a web page. Did have to patch Whiskey server to support getting the AP address. Oh, Narodoc points out that there is the WowKey emulator. Yeah, so there is a that's why I'm asking. For the web workflow stuff is why you're asking? So there is an emulator that emulates an RP2040, which is a chip that CircuitPython can run on, which is cool. And Christian Walther is working on running MicroPython in a browser with WASM as well. So yeah, people are working on it. Rich says, I still want interrupt support, but you've explained the challenges before. Others might want to know. Yes. No, I don't know of anybody that's tried to use WASM with CircuitPython. If you wanted to do it, then we'd welcome changes to CircuitPython, but it's not top of my list. You know what I should do is I should find a new board because I want to kind of show this stuff end to end. Okay, so I've got, let's see, did I use this already? Let's plug it in. So let me switch to product showcase mode. So this is a Feather ESP32S2. Let's plug it in and see what we get. I don't know what's on here. Oh, is it upside down? Okay, so this is a little bit of an old build, but it's going to show. Yeah, so up here you can see there's a Blinka and then there's an IP address, which is pretty neat. I don't actually want to show you this quite yet because I know this is an old build. In fact, I kind of wanted to show the process from the start, so let me just check this Feather S3 that I've got sitting there. Okay, so this is a Feather S3, but it says that it's, oh, come on. Wi-Fi is off on here. So I think what I want to do is I'm going to flash this with whatever is in my current branch. And then I'll kind of show one of the challenges on boards, and maybe I should use an ESP. So one of the more exciting things is that we have support for ESP32s now, which are very cool. So those are like not the original Espressif chip, but like the second chip that Espressif did. Yeah, so let me just, I'll use this one. So here's a Qt Py. It's an ESP32 with no extension. So I kind of want to just show you how web workflow works where you don't have full USB. So I'm going to cheat and do something that's a little bit... so I'm going to load it using just building CircuitPython. So I'm going to build a new one. Hopefully it works. So what I did is I plugged it in with holding the boot button down. Let me switch this because it'll be better about the lighting. And... here. And have I built today? I don't think I have. Oh, let's go to desktop and make this smaller. Neradoc has more stuff. Okay, ESP IDF, export and export. This is just so I can build, and then I'm gonna make board equals Adafruit cutie pie ESP32 Pico, and the port auto completed because I have been testing on this. So I'm just gonna build it, and then we'll show it off. And it might take a little while longer because I'm not using the graphics card to encode. I want to get a new graphics card when they release the next gen, because I have kind of a bad one. But when building CircuitPython, what build chain / OS machine type? I know there's a long guide, but curious about my workflow. So I'm running on Arch Linux. It's the same box that's doing the streaming. And it's a AMD Ryzen 5950X, so 16 core, 32 thread. Although the ESP builds I tend not to do multi-threaded, because there is like occasionally you'll hit like a concurrent build problem, which is kind of annoying. But generally on the ESP ones, because there's that bug that I haven't hunted down, I do just single. It's super fast for some other stuff, but. Yeah, and Andy says I've been building CircuitPython on a MacBook Pro just fine in recent weeks. Yep, so before I had this computer, I was doing all this on a MacBook Pro. But kind of streaming got me to where I was like, a desktop would be a lot nicer, because then the desktop like can cool itself when it gets hot, rather than just like lighting your lap on fire. It's worth it. I've been really happy with it. So. Okay, so it's writing to the device. So this is to the little ESP32 cutie pie. ESP32 support is really exciting because it's a chip that's just been around for a lot of time, and it's ended up in a lot of devices, including, let me show you this one. So this is an Odroid Go. It's like a Game Boy style thing. It came out a few years ago, so it's probably hard to find now. I don't think they're selling it anymore. But you can, it's pretty cool here. I ported CircuitPython to it, and it shows the title bar and everything. So maybe we'll take a look. Well, once it connected, it showed more stuff. The MacBook Air M1. My desktop sometimes fails at cooling itself off, so random too. I did have problems with this desktop, or an older version of it at one point, where like the thermal paste was so old that it wasn't like wicking the wasn't wicking the heat off the CPU, so it would crash. So yeah, it's good to keep that up to date. Okay, so we're flashed. I'm gonna hit the reset button. And I see the light blink, so now I can do TO. So because there's no native USB, all you have now is the UART link via a serial converter. Yeah, so right now it's just connected to USB. There's the cutie pie, and I don't think it's set up for that. So if we see here, now we're on the Pico, and I don't know, so I've introduced this environment file, so you can now do os.getEnv, so os.getEnv, and I want to get CircuitPy, Wi-Fi SSID, and see if it's set. Yep, so that's set. The problem is that it's not connected, which probably means that, or I don't think it's connected. Import. If I had a screen, I'd be able to tell, but you can also do Wi-Fi.radio.IPv4 address. Oh, I do have an address. So Dexter asks, any plans to add .dev container support for building CircuitPython? I don't know what .dev container is, so I don't know of any plans. But again, a lot of the cool stuff that happens is done by the community too. So if you wanted to add that, then that would be cool. Okay, so we have an IP address. So, oh, and in fact, I should point this out. So here's my terminal, and in the terminal bar, we actually also see that the IP is 192.168.1.60, and that we're in the REPL, and this is the version number that we are. So there's now title bar support in CircuitPython. So there's this, it will output through the serial terminal, but then also on the screen, it'll have a title bar with status like this. So what I should say is, if you're in this case and it's not already connected, so there's an os dot, or there's a .env file, so you would do something like open /.env, and then for writing, and I guess this is going to overwrite it, so I'll just do it. So f.write CircuitPy Wi-Fi SSID equals Skylab new line CircuitPy Wi-Fi password. I'll just tell you what it is. It's free Wi-Fi. CircuitPy web API password. So what CircuitPython does is it presents an HTTP server, and you want to make it a little more difficult for somebody to like get your files and write files. So there's a separate password for that. And the examples use password with a 0. So we'll do that. We'll do fwrite and then fclose to write the file. And now if we hit Control D, we'll rerun. Are you aware of anyone building CP from scratch on the M1 Mac? Yes, I am. Both Dan and Kattni have those, and Lady Ada has an M1 Mac as well. Pierre says, hey Scott, it's been a while. I haven't been keeping up with things. 8X is almost out. What's the big ticket items that comes with? Great question. I will answer here, but I will also pitch that I think what I've signed up for on CircuitPython Day in 2 weeks is a 30-minute stream all talking about 8X. If I had to summarize, it's web workflow, ESP32 support, and ESP32C3 support. So like if you've seen the CircuitPython 8 poster, it's like the Espressif logo with Blinka. So really trying to focus us on web workflow on ESP and all of the ESP chips, because we can get them as well. Okay, so the title bar here is saying we have an IP address and that we're done. So I'm going to pull up the browser with my checklist, and now I'm just going to type in circuitpython.local, and we'll see if it works. Wabam! So I think this is the good. Thank you, Pierre. You're looking forward to it. This was one of the hurdles for me when it came to doing a web workflow. So the background is that MicroPython has a web REPL, which is kind of this. It's not the same, but it's kind of the same. And finding your IP has always been a challenge, and it's not something that I really wanted people to have to do. So a turning point for this web stuff was in my mind was Jeff pointing out MDNS, which is a way that devices on a local network can discover other devices, and specifically it can be used to find devices under the .local kind of like top level domain. So it kind of the way that it works is like when my desktop, I typed in circuitpython.local, it broadcasts to all the devices in the local network, says, hey, is anybody circuitpython.local? Any of those devices can reply with, oh yeah, like I'm circuitpython.local and here's my IP address. It actually uses like the same format as regular DNS entries. And so what the browser will say, okay, that's great. I'll go to you. Now I will do an HTTP request to you with the host circuitpython.local. CircuitPython now runs a web server. So that web server looks and sees if the host name of the request is circuitpython.local, and if it is, regardless of kind of what it is, it will return a redirect, and the redirect goes to a particular local domain that is for the specific device. Whew. Oh, David, sorry that you're going to have to watch the recording. It should be recorded, so that shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, M1 Max sound pretty cool. I've been pretty happy with Arch, though, although the video encoding thing was kind of annoying. But I've got plenty of CPU power to encode and do all this stuff at the same time. Yeah, Rich says I use MDNS for all kinds of things: Raspberry Pis, ESP32s, SBCs. Yeah, MDNS is based on a thing called Bonjour that Apple developed, so it's pretty heavily used by Apple, where Apple will use it for like Apple TV discovery and all sorts of discoveries on the local network. So that's pretty cool. Let me show you another perk of it. So I showed the Odroid Go. So here I have an Odroid Go. It has no wires. It's battery powered. I will turn it on, and hopefully this will work. You can see there's a blue LED here that flashes like the CircuitPython flash. So it should be going. I can't read it, but it should have an IP, which it does. And now if so this device is specifically the QT Py ESP32 that I have. If I hit refresh, I'll get that page again. And it didn't work. What it should do is it should also show me the Odroid Go. So MDNS uses UDP. Hey Maddie T, glad you could make it. So because it's UDP, it can be unreliable. So it's not perfectly reliable. But this is the neat part. So that process I just talked about of the circuitpython.local lookup, that'll get you to any CircuitPython device on your network, but not any specific one. That's why we have the second local domains that have like the MAC address in it. So now if this page is for the ESP32 Pico, and in another tab I can open it for the Odroid Go, and you can see the Odroid Go gave me a link back to the Pico as well. One thing that can happen is that networks can block MDNS if they're particularly locked down, which is one reason we've done the title bar stuff, so you can actually see the IP address. So if you're in a world where you only have IP addresses, I can just click here, and now this is kind of the IP view of the world, so to speak. If it managed to find the other device, which I'll just refresh again. It just does one fetch call. So here now you'll be able to see that this link to the other device is now using IP address as well. So Love the Factory says, how feasible is it to put a USB mux in front of a couple CircuitPythons? I think you're really just wanting to do USB, like have a USB, bit bleary-eyed, but I'm glad I can make. I feel ya with the bleary-eyed. I did not get enough sleep last night either, but I know it's early for you. Let me know if you have questions. What you really want for USB mux is you really just want a hub. You want a USB hub. Ty says, is discovery via MDNS only? It is. So the discovery bit here, but there is two things to think about when it comes to discovery. One is my computer discovering other devices, and that doesn't necessarily work because like I had to set up my computer. It's Linux, so your mileage may vary, but I had to make sure my computer did it. So imagine a world where my computer doesn't do the .local lookup, but so I can use an IP address, but then the router allows it, right? So it's kind of like there are two ways or two things that are doing the MDNS. One is my computer and one is the other devices. If MDNS doesn't work at all on your network, you would have to do IP address for each one. We don't have any other way of doing discovery right now. Although I suppose we could do something like register with some central server, but we're not going to do that. Hi, DJ Devin. Okay, so I've got two devices on the network. I'm going to focus on just one of these. The Odroid doesn't actually have the newest one. So let's show off. So I've kind of been abstracting away this idea of a workflow, and there's two main pieces of a workflow. There's the serial connection, and then there's the serial connection, and then there's editing files. In typical USB land, you have USB serial and you have USB mass storage for those two pieces. We also have BLE, so over BLE you can do file stuff, and you can also get what's very similar to a Nordic UART service for serial. So in CircuitPython web workflow world, if you want to do serial, it's password protected. So no username, don't bother. But the password here is the password I put in the .env file. So it's password without, if I type it right, I think, yeah, there we go. Okay, so now we have a serial connection over the Wi-Fi, even though it is plugged into USB as well. So what we see here, I'm pointing to my screen. So down here is our serial connection to the device over USB, and up in the web browser we have a serial connection to the device over Wi-Fi. So now I can type, and I can do 1 + 1, and it works. And I can print hello world. So you can see that what happens is input comes in from any one of these places. So if I do, you can see the title bar here is the same. Now I can do 1 + 2, and it kind of like, it takes input from anywhere and echoes it back to all the places. Control D is also bookmarking in a browser, so you can hit this button here to send a Control D, which will exit the REPL and rerun your code. There's also a Control C button here as well. Maddie T says, I love my Odroid Go. I'm a little salty hard kernel discontinued them. I know, it's kind of sad, especially now that we have support for it. DJ Devin says, it's real time. That's amazing. Yeah, it's pretty good. I should say that some people have been having more trouble with the web workflow when they've had weak signal. So if you do find that, let me know. And Andy has been helping, says, I got new CSS coming for the serial page soon. Will be a little easier on the eyes. That's cool. And then the other thing is, I just saw, so Maker Melissa, we have code.circuitpython.org, which has been kind of behind this BLE wall. So you go to circuitpython.org and you get this like set up Bluetooth, which is great if you have Bluetooth, but I don't think a lot of people are using it. So this will soon be broadened to cover kind of all the workflows. And I just saw today Melissa, who does a lot of the work on code.circuitpython.org, she got the web, so the web workflow piece, the serial piece is done over a WebSocket, and got that working. She got that working. So kind of what we're doing is from the device, we're doing super minimal, barely be able to do everything you want to do in case you're offline. And then I want to just have those pages link out and say like, hey, if you're online, like you could go to code.circuitpython.org and then have this richer experience where we download fancy JavaScript libraries and have a lot of HTML and stuff like that. But what the device actually hosts, which is what we see here, I want to keep it super minimal because all of that JavaScript, all of that HTML is like baked into the CircuitPython build, which we don't have infinite space on. But Andy has taken that challenge, so that's good. Doing reserved IP for the DNS lookup works well. Low tech for creating findable devices. Look in your router console and find the MAC address of the desired device, and then create a scheme. Yeah, you can have the... See if it can react to Control D and Control C on Mac. That's so much simpler. Yeah, that's true. DJ Devin says, weak signal is a user AP problem, though out of scope for troubleshooting from controller land. It would be nice if we could tell. So Nerodoc's like already been running with this. So the cool thing is for serial, we have a WebSocket, which is kind of the standard way of doing it. And then we have a REST API, which is a very common way of doing all the file stuff. Open web workflow HTML. I'll save that in a tab in case I get to that. I want to cover this core stuff first. But I think the tooling piece is going to be really, really cool. Friday night dinner. Thanks, Rich, for hanging out. And yeah, please, in the Discord, we're happy to give guidance on the PicoW. And please keep us posted on how far you get, because at some point we're gonna spend some time on it, depending on how far you get. Not me, because I'm about to go on paternity leave. But yeah, so that's the serial side of things. We should be able to go back. Yeah, East Coaster. Yeah, we usually have some Europe folks as well. So now let's look at the file browser piece. So here we have the ESP32 QtPy and the code, or the stuff that's on it. We can hit code.py, and I haven't actually played oh, I guess I did do this a little bit. So Foamy Guy, I will need some help. Just want to get some grunt work done. Yeah, thank you. You can now hit edit. Foamy Guy added this. So we can say hello world. We can say hello streamer, deep divers. Let's do deep divers. And then Control S does actually work on this page, I think. So we hit Control S, and it loaded the file again. Didn't work. Deep divers. Control S. Did I hit the wrong? Oh, I don't know why. I thought, let's try the button. I might have an old version. Well, it says it saved. Okay, there we go. It was a little bit slower. Ooh, there's Pocket Sprite if folks are looking for an ESP32 powered. Is it mounted? It's not mounted because this is an ESP32. I don't know why it didn't work. We could look at the DevTools stuff. But you see that it did do the auto reload. It was a little slow. I'm not sure why it was slow. Like you can see it saved pretty quickly and it reloaded pretty quickly there too. DJ Devin says, congrats on leave though, just in the past without seeing you in GitHub updates and dev channel. Like your presence not being there is missed for sure. Oh, thank you. I'll be back. I've been quite surprised actually how much I've accomplished in this. Like I have had 6 weeks off and then 6 weeks back and then 12 weeks off. I've been surprised how much I've gotten done actually. Like all this web workflow stuff. Not this. Foamy Guy did this page, but okay, so that's editing. We can browse here. I don't actually know if there's anything in the live directory though. We could create another directory. Create hello, and now we have a hello directory with the time, which is not right. Why is that time It's 246, not 213. Not sure why that's wrong. Did I say that this is alpha still? Pimoroni's Pico system, PyBoard, PyGamer, they all run CircuitPython, PPM4. Oh, I do have a Meowbit. I also have a 32-bit that I have meant to get running and never have. I've got lots of stuff that I want to put CircuitPython on. It's forever my task. Watches are kind of my thing right now, which is definitely a rabbit hole. What else do I want to show? You can select files. Let's see. We could do display ruler. So it's 360K, so it's not a small file, but let's see if it works. I don't think there's a lot of feedback uploading wise. I should at least gray out the upload button as it goes. Is it going? Is it not going? So there's kind of two pieces to this file stuff. There's this like web page that we're interacting with, but then there is an API underneath that people can use to write tools. Let's just see. There's an API underneath that people can write tools to. It is documented. So I just went to docs.circuitpython.org. And now there's a workflows page that talks about the USB, BLE, and the web. So in the web thing, it will tell you like how to set up your .env file, and then tell you like all the different pages that you can. Fatal amount of clicking. Meowbit works well. That's good. There you go. Listen in the car. Drive safe though, Rich. Yeah, so the APIs that are under the hood for all this HTML stuff is documented on this workflows page. Although I realize the redirect is wrong because I changed that. Hey, it worked. It did work. It just took some time. You might see this timestamp. It looks weird, but it should actually be the timestamp that matches my local system. Because when you select a file in a browser, it can actually have access to the modified time too. And I don't think this will work. Yeah, it just downloads it. Obviously, it's not super quick. It should work though. It should work. Churn, churn, churn. Yeah, not going for fast, I'll tell you that. Can we open the file? Yeah, I want to open the GIMP. Hey, look, the file looks okay. So it did work. It was just not super fast. The one thing I wanted to show is that I have enough code in CircuitPython that if you have an HTML file, it will actually show. So maybe if I go here and I do open hello.html and write to it f.write HTML body hello deep divers body F close, Control D. So this is our code.py, but now if we go back here and we refresh, we should see hello.html, and you can see that the icon is different. So if we click that, it serves it with the right header, so the browser will just load it. And I think it'll do that for CSS and JavaScript as well. So you could imagine a world where you actually like have a project where you just want to host an HTML file. You don't actually need a web server in Python. You could have it just do this. Although this is on port 80, which is the default port. So you could it could be a little tricky if you want like actually something Python working as well. DJ Devon says, since the devices are on USB usually or Wi-Fi, is there a way to pull the timestamp from the PC or other than Bluetooth, or maybe having a router, or would just Adafruit I/O be best for time sync for web workflow devices? Wow, that was definitely sleep deprivation brain. Yeah, I haven't handled the syncing time of the device automatically at all. You would have to do NTP yourself. I'm skirting around that with this because when you select a file, we take the time of the file. So the APIs to create a folder and write a file do take a custom header that allows you to give a timestamp for it. But it doesn't do anything to assume that that's like the actual time. Neurodoc says, by the way, the icons don't display right. How about replacing them with legit emojis? I don't know what you mean by legit emojis. I'm using Unicode code points for the emojis. So if you have a font with them, then they should work. Clippership says, FYI, one fast way to get rid of sleep deprivation fatigue is to have a Coke Classic or a Red Bull. Yeah, I've never been a huge caffeine person. Like the way that I get caffeine is like caffeine takes me there as well. Of just like I can't focus. I did have like a couple pieces of chocolate before, but that's clearly not enough. Andy says, how does it handle indexed HTML files? Will it load as the default page? It will not. Yeah, you're just navigating. Currently just running on a monotonic kind of thing. So when you write a file, you tell it what time you want to write it for. Unicode characters that are not emojis, they don't work on Mac. I don't know what you mean the difference between Unicode and emoji. But if there's like a different code point we should use, then yeah, go ahead and just change it. Maddie T says, I wanted a more complete NTP solution for a long time. I did, not that long ago, change the, oh, that's not what I want. Adafruit NTP library to actually do NTP. I was a little frustrated because for a while this library didn't actually do NTP. It just called some ESP32 spy function. But it turns out the NTP person actually made like domains for Adafruit, apparently. And so this will actually, it just uses socket and it sends the like UDP packets to get the NTP stuff. So this should just work with regular sockets to do the NTP stuff. I think some emojis are hex. I do have like a font awesome font that has stuff patched in. If there are other code points we should use, then yeah, I'm totally game to change them. I just was like trying to avoid actually serving images. Although one thing I've been thinking about is adding emoji support to the terminal. To the like CircuitPython display terminal. I want to support there are valid Unicode code points not part of the emoji standard. Yeah, if you want to change them, that's fine. I know you know what you're doing. They just worked for me, so that's why I picked them. Yeah, so I think that's I could do the same stuff with curl, but I think I've covered most of it. One thing that I haven't added that I should probably blink is always a valid emoji. Well, did you see that I'm actually using the snake emoji? So if you look at the serial terminal, the title bar has a snake emoji in it. We can have them replaced with images with cp.org CSS. Yeah, yeah. Andy could do that too. Andy's been working on, so this stuff should work all offline, but Andy's been working on some CSS that will do that. Maddie says, I'm looking more into rich/textual to improve the terminal appearance of MP Remote. Yeah, rich and textual looks pretty neat. I haven't used MP Remote myself, so I don't know how much it shows on the terminal. I thought it was just like a fuse thing where it gave you a directory. Once we have emoji support in the display IO terminal, I want to make Blinka the snake emoji. That's part of the reason I did that. Like right now, when it shows on the display, there's like this Blinka in the corner. Like that's fixed there right now. And actually the terminal, if it gets a character that it doesn't know, it just won't render it, which is kind of convenient. But it doesn't make like languages like Japanese work very well. So in the longer term, I'd like to make terminal support like a few colors in an emoji and also be able to do full and half width characters. And then we can support more languages, which I think would be cool. I think I'm really excited about web workflow because it'll finally, I think people want to be able to administer devices kind of from their computer, even if there's a bunch of them. So like showing how you can like discover all the devices and interact with them all is pretty neat. And then, yeah, doing it wirelessly. ESP32 support's a big deal. And Rich says, I wish there was an option to remove Blinka. You can do that. You can remove Blinka with a build flag if you want. I did actually just shrink the size of Blinka a little bit on most builds. It was 16 by 16, and I added a 12 by 12 one because the default font is 6 by 12. So it's a little bit better use of space if Blinka is 12 by 12, not 16. So actually, I don't think that's merged in yet. That's in the PR that's out. Nerdoc says you can remove it from display with the display.root group stuff too. I like the people that call it a llama. Come out as emojis unwanted if your code has the same characters. Are there any questions about this web workflow stuff? I think I showed it off. I'm very excited for the tooling. I know Nerodoc's been doing a lot of tooling stuff, and I think code.circuitpython.org is going to be really neat as well. Because where I showed like super basic editor and code editor in terminal, like we should be able to do code.circuitpython.org non-HTTPS, call out to your local devices and like give you like a full-blown, a really high-quality experience from there. It's a desire to own the whole TFT for certain use cases. You can do that. You can do that by just not showing the terminal. You're not owning the whole TFT until you replace the root group. Ty says, now I'll take SSL hosted server, please. SSL's complicated as far as I know. It's certainly not high on my list. I'd like to figure out how to do it. Dexter says, can I upload a file over HTTP? You can. So this is the webpage of the local device. You hit file browser. You may have to type in a password, but my browser is pretty good about remembering it. It takes a little while. It'll load the stuff. We can And then you can select a file. What's a smaller one? CanIO? Or my Chickadee Tech logo. And then hit upload. And then it'll upload the file. And you can see that it restarted as well. DCD, thank you. We'll have to watch the rest on the recording. Great to see you. Great to see you too. Patrick says, I'm making a build right now for the Lowland C3 Mini to see if the MDNS works on my network. DJ Devin says, why is web workflow so awesome? I'm not using it yet, but looking for an excuse to get into it. But so many projects ahead first. I feel that. Here's how I made it look free with a ._ extended attributes file. Ooh, that does look nice. Thanks, Andy. Thanks for all your help on this too. Naradoc, please just make a PR and we'll get it fixed. I'm not wedded to it. If folks have worked with me before, you know that I'm very much a like, let me clear the path and then folks can come along later and refine it a bit. Patrick says, not having the drive on C3 is going to be hard. Can we add params to the flashing process to build the .env? I would love to. That is in my plan. And I'm not going to get to it. I'll tell you that. But it is on our radar, I think. I think that's something Melissa would do as well. And using Web Serial. And I really do want to give credit also to like Lauren and Brent of doing the whippersnapper stuff, because they really also kind of cleared my mind of the hurdle of how to like provision a device. So I know it's something we don't have quite yet, but it's something we should be able to do. And in fact, what I'd like to do is on circuitpython.org/downloads, just for devices that support web, like ESP devices, doing the, like, have a button that's just like installed on my device, and then it selects a Web Serial device and does all that for you right in there. And then you could say like, here's my ENV parameters too. Rich says, about to leave, but thanks for the info. I was off in terminal, might be able to help with SSL support. Yeah, that'd be great. If SSL is built into the microcontroller, it may not be too hard to layer on top, but given the use of this for now, I can see it not being a top priority. Thank you. DJ Devin says, have family visiting, just wanted to stop in and say you're awesome. Web workflow is awesome. Keep up the great work. Yeah, thank you. And thank you to everybody who's been testing it as well. But having a lot of folks that are like staying right up, and then Wemos has an S3 based board about to be released. They submitted a board def, but aren't selling the device yet. Yeah, I'm excited for the influx of devices that we can get on here. Yeah, SSL's hard. That's one of the challenges for PicoW. Like, networking is a lot more mature in MicroPython than it is in CircuitPython. Like, for a while I was convinced that like the CircuitPython core shouldn't do networking. Because we often have networking provided by a coprocessor. And in that case, it's not necessarily good to have it built in natively, because you could like connect it at any time. But I think web workflow is making me rethink that. Although I'd still do like the idea of, I like the idea of network dependent APIs allowing you to pass stuff in. I don't know if we can do SSL server even with a self-signed certificate. I don't think you can. I think that's what Tyth is talking about. I don't know the details of .local SSL certificates either. I really don't have a lot of experience with it. Generally, I find network programming really frustrating and BLE for the same reason, because you can get a you can get an error at any time, and that's really hard to program for. Since this is deep dive, would it help people if I just did a quick code tour of where all this web workflow stuff is, in case you want to dive in? Or do people have questions? Questions are good too. I'm planning on trying to go for another hour or so. Can't do Let's Encrypt in local. Ty says I love a tour. Okay, great. I guess I was gonna maybe show off Neradoc stuff too. The web packager stuff. It's basically circup over the web, I think, which is really neat. But I have trouble. I'm bad about downloading stuff. Please, to the tour. Okay. Dive, dive, dive. All right, get your scuba masks on. Let's use my copy here. Yeah, Patrick links to the workflow notes. Maybe we just put Rot 13 on the stream, better than nothing, right? Well, the nice thing about this is it's all local network stuff. Although, to use code.circuitpython.org, you have to load that with HTTP, which is unfortunate. Network will be useful in bare metal Pi. We don't have that right now. The Pi 02 has the same Wi-Fi chip as the Pico W, which I really wanted to support, but the license on the library from Damien wouldn't allow that, which is totally up to him. Oh, well, it wouldn't allow it for commercial use, which whether CircuitPython itself is commercial is a debate, I'm sure. Okay, so CircuitPython source. A lot of this is in supervisor. So this is the top level of CircuitPython. I should probably close some of these tabs, or close some of these files. So in supervisor, a lot of this is in shared. There's now a web workflow directory under shared. Bluetooth here is where all the BLE workflow stuff lives. And there is a little bit of shared workflow stuff here. And you can also see there's title bar. The title bar stuff is in supervisor shared as well. But the bulk of the web workflow stuff is under this web workflow folder. Wow, brain. These are the WebSocket APIs. So this is the serial side of things. So init handoff takes in a socket. So socketpool.socket is the C version of socketpool.socket from Python. You can say it's connected, available, and you can read a character and write a character. That's used in serial.c, which is kind of the central place for input and output. The central place for input and output on the serial side for CircuitPython. So you can see, oh, is serial connected? Kind of checks all the ways to do serial. And then a serial read checks USB, console, BLE, web, USB. So this is kind of like the central location for all of the different ways of doing the workflow for serial. And then WebSocket is the part that manages the WebSocket protocol on top of a regular socket, which there is one. It's not just a regular socket. Right now you can see there is debugging in here that's ESP specific, which I should remove. And will definitely be removed when we bring web workflow for other things. But generally this code should be port agnostic. It's not right now, but it should be. So WebSocket handoff will do, it kind of takes over the socket and moves where it's stored. It updates a request for the title bar so that the web page with the serial gets the title bar information. how we tell it's connected. We have a generic read byte, which is just a log if it fails to let me know. A generic send that does the same thing. And then there's these WebSocket. The WebSocket protocol has like frames with lengths. So that's what this manages. There's masking involved. That's what this manages as well. So WebSockets are HTTP to start, and then they get upgraded to a WebSocket. So this is all after it's been upgraded. There's different opcodes for the different frames. There's also ping and close. That's handled here. So this is all reading the start of a frame, and it also determines how much of a payload there is, which would be like the actual content of the serial connection. This read next payload byte will is called by that CircuitPython code that says like, hey, what's the next serial input? So it pulls a byte from the socket, the pending WebSocket, if passed, and kind of scooches by any new frames. WebSocket available, blah, blah, blah. Read, so you can see read character just calls this next payload byte. Send is the reverse, so it's formulating a WebSocket frame to send back to the browser. So figuring out the payload length stuff and encoding it into the header, and then sending the data that we're trying to send out. And this could be, it's usually one character, especially if you're typing, but if you do like, and Retired Wizard found this bug, if you take a string, multiply it by like 150 and then print it, it will send all 150 characters all at once. So you'll end up now with a WebSocket frame that is 150 payload length. And there was a bug with that, so got that fixed. So that's the serial side. This other file is the bigger one. And so this is the web server side. So this is the HTTP server. These are like internal request state, internal request struct, keeping track of things. More internal state about like the MDNS that's going. So this also does like the connect to the network sort of stuff. We've got some code to do base 64 encoding in place, which probably shouldn't be in here. But you need base 64 encoding for the password checking. So this will read in the password base 64, encode it, and then compare it when requests come in. Update encoding. So these two things, workflow status, dirty, and workflow status, are what end up in the title bar. So this is the title bar stuff. I have these Unicode icons that I want to use for like signal strength, but I haven't added it yet. But this is the like, oh, if we have an IP address printed out, and if the port's not 80, it'll append the port as well. So you can actually configure a non-80 port. If you want to have user code on port 80, you can have the workflow on a different port. And then here's like basic Wi-Fi updates as well. So starting the web workflow, this is the stuff that it actually gets called kind of like every time a VM runs. So if you change like passwords and stuff, it should load that. If you change the SSID, it'll do that too. So if the radio is not on, so first it gets the SSID and password out of the .env file, null terminates it, tries to connect. If it fails, it disables the radio and returns. If there's a port, it parses the port, and then on first start, it does the MDNS stuff and gets the WebSocket stuff initted. We could load an external font from circuitpython.org to make sure it has the icons. We could. Although that won't work offline, so you should pick something that will probably work offline. Yeah, it's a balance between making the like native experience work and just punting to an experience from circuitpython.org. If first start or port changed, we reopen the socket that accepts connections on the web API port. And then we get the password and we base for encode the password. And this to-do needs to be deleted because Foamy Guy did that. We have basic sends and prints. So send is just send these bytes. Print is similar, except it can be used with MP-printf, which is neat. Send string just measures the length of the string. Send strings sends multiple things, which is kind of nice. And then we use chunked encoding. So one of the challenges with regular HTTP is when you send a response, you should provide a content length, so the full, how long the full body is. But in HTTP, when HTTP 1.1 came out, they added chunked encoding, which allows you to not send content length. You just send prefix lengths for a bunch of chunks, and then at the end you send a chunk of 0. So that's what this is doing. Is it's doing this, and most HTTP stuff will just reassemble this for you. But it's very convenient in this world where we're kind of like, I'm trying not to build a big string and then send it. I'm trying to send a lot of small chunks, even if I have to send many chunks and actually more data because the chunks have prefixes. Like, I don't care about that. I care about that I'm not spending a bunch of memory to form responses. Send chunk, print chunks, pretty much the same, except it can be used with MP-printf, and send chunks is the same thing too. Although it's actually, you can give it multiple things and it will actually only send one chunk for all of them because it computes the total length up front. Ends with is a helper to just do suffix checks, which is handy for it's handy for like figuring out what kind of file something is. We do origin checks. So code.circuitpython.org, 127.0.0.1, and localhost are kind of ones outside of what this device's domains are, or that are okay for the origin. And so that's what this is doing, is it's doing checks to make sure that you can see we check our IP, we check our host name, and we want to make sure that it's coming from a place that's reasonable. The reason is because we don't, like, the browser's pretty good about preventing like some random website from accessing another website. And we want to kind of, like, it will pass an origin header to us, and we want to try to make it harder for bad actors to access it. It's not secure. Don't think it's secure. USB active just allows us to negotiate with like the mass storage. If USB is active and you try to write a file, we'll give you an error that says like, hey, we're busy. And then this is a bunch of header stuff, and I think what I want to do is actually go down to the bottom. I want to start from the bottom and work my way back up. So there's no way to stop it. Maybe there should be. Background process says, hey, if our active connection's connected but we're not doing anything, and there's no request in progress, and the listening socket's not closed, like we see if there's another socket incoming, and if there is, we'll close the active socket before kind of like replacing it. And then if the active socket's connected, then we'll process a request. Otherwise, we'll close it. Which is handy. So that's the top level, like, is there any more work to do? And then we have process requests. So this is reading bytes from a socket and figuring out what to do. So here's the reading bytes part. If there's no longer a request in progress, then we can, or if there was not a request in progress, but now there is, we suspend auto reload because we're in the middle of potentially writing a file, and we don't want to have to deal with that. And then there's kind of like these states of like where we are in the HTTP request. So first is like get or put. So we copy into this method the character and offset, and then we zero truncate it when we hit a space. So this will be in the request state, we'll have the method, and then we'll move to the path, and we'll do the same thing where we parse the path. We make sure that the version that we're sent is HTTP 1.1. We don't save it. So this HTTP server is like very specific to what we're doing. It won't like store all the headers you send it. It just looks for particular ones. And then we kind of, I should show this reference. Like MDNN HTTP is really handy. I was using it a lot. It has this like overview of HTTP. And what can be controlled, flow. So it says like, here's the request. You send a method and then a path and then the version and then some headers. And here's what a response looks like. And it's a great reference, so I would recommend that. So we're kind of like working our way through it. Header keys we need, so if it ends with a \n or a \r, that's how, like it's a new line and that's what ends header key. So we copy it in the header key. If we find a colon, then we're at the end. And we've copied it into header key. Trying to be somewhat resilient. And then what comes after the key is the value. And if we're finished with the value, because we hit a \r, there are a bunch of headers we care about, and we do different things based on them. So for authorization, we'll compare the value to the basic CD4 encoded value we had before. If we have host, we'll see if we want to do a redirect. If we have content length, we'll parse it and save it. If we have expect, which is some sort of like checking if it's okay to upload, we'll do that. We'll say that that's what we need. If accept as JSON, we know we're in JSON land. We'll remember that. Origin, timestamp. This is the custom header for setting the time. Upgrades for WebSockets. These three are for WebSockets. So, and it'll print out all the headers that it sees right now. And then we're in the body, and basically this stuff is done when we're through all the headers. And if we have an error, then we'll do this. If we're not done, we'll just return and wait for more bytes to come in. But if we are done, then we'll do a reply and then reset the request, resume, auto reload, and potentially trigger it. So that's one layer. That's the parse the incoming HTTP request layer. And then there's this giant function here. HTTPy is a great tool for poking at APIs like this too. Haven't used curl since finding it. Oh, nice. I'll have to look at that. Curl was pretty handy for all the chunking too. Okay, so now we're in reply. Basically, we have a bunch of request state that we've already determined from the header. And then we have the socket too. So if we request a redirect, basically your circuitpython.local will just reply that you should redirect. If we're not okay with the origin, if the origin is greater than 0, so if there is an origin, we'll check it. And if not, we'll say it's forbidden. If you're looking for FS, options is some CORS stuff. So CORS is like cross-origin checking, which prevents some websites from accessing resources or kind of cross domains. If that's okay, then we'll check for if you need to be authenticated, because this is for all the FS file system endpoints. And then we'll check the path. This is something I'm about to change. We'll get the CircuitPy drive. And then we'll have that. If we're going to do delete, so if the method's delete, we'll check that USB is not active, and if it is, we'll say it's a conflict. Otherwise, we'll make sure the file exists. And then if it's a directory, we'll delete the contents. If it's not, then we'll just unlink it. Or then we'll unlink it. And we'll unlock USB and then tell you what happened. So it missing means there's no file. If it's not okay, we had a server error, which is something I didn't handle, and then no content. Blah, blah, blah. Similar for getting a directory. You can kind of see the structure here where we have all these replies. Reply static is if it's a static file, which I can talk about. I probably shouldn't go, I don't need to cover each one of these. The workflow doc on Read the Docs is a much better way to understand what's going on. But this is the thing that's doing kind of like the routing, so to speak, to what you do. You can see here's all the different static things that we have. And that's what's above here. So you can see, like, if we reply to the WebSocket upgrade, well, we compute the magic reply thing. We say, yeah, we'll switch. And then we hand it off to the code we looked at earlier. Reply static, you have to declare the file here, but then it will just respond with, like, they're all gzip encoded during build time to save space, and then reply with those. Yeah, write file and reply is used for writing a file, discard incoming, truncate time, delete directory contents, reply with version JSON so you can discover some stuff about a board. Devices JSON is the MDNS discovery. Reply with file. This is the static file hosting stuff, so you can see that it does some extension checks to set the content type. That's why you can, like, host an HTML file from it. Directory JSON is the file list. This is the redirect. I actually changed this. My code's old. It's now a temporary redirect, which means the browser won't cache it, which is handy. Because if it's cached, you could end up, if you do circuitpath.local with the device and then you disconnect the device, the browser will still redirect it to it. So having it temporary means it'll do that search again, hopefully. And then a bunch of errors. 500, unauthorized, payload too large, conflict, blah, blah, blah. Not all that interesting. This is a way, access control is a little bit different because it can tell you whether you're on USB, like if USB is blocking you. Yeah, and that's it, I think. And then the only other thing is that, like, this static directory is where all the HTML and JavaScript and CSS lives. Now that I've put you all to sleep, are there any questions? Like, the chat dies down when I go into like really technical stuff. But this is a foundation. It's going to be really cool when we have the tooling built on top of it to be really handy. Neradoc is typing. Let me eat some vitamins. There is a lag. YouTube is set up on normal so that it has the auto captions, which are hopefully working and not too far off. What else can I say about this stuff? There's lots of bugs open. Lots of things to fix. Oh, Melissa asked a workflow-related question in dev. Rich has pizza and is not sharing with us. Pierre says, access control, will there be a way to add user password to authorize changes? There's already, it uses HTTP basic authentication to have a password. The user is just always empty. It's not secure because it's base for encoded across the wire, but it's meant to. When I was thinking about adding it, I was thinking of that person at the conference that's like, oh, everybody has the same password or it's not password protected, and like griefs somebody just because they can. Like, this is meant to be just like a little bit of a barrier to make it a little bit harder for that. So if you have a build from main today and put a .m file there on an ESP32 export, this should work. I believe so. Maddie found it interesting. Good, I'm glad. Rich did not get enough pizza for the whole class. Somebody want to tell Melissa I'm streaming? Maybe she wants to ask the question in the chat. Ty says, what cool things do you want to add but have realized should be a separate module? Yeah, I mean, like, most things should be separate modules. Because then you can turn them off and on. The title bar stuff, I wanted to have everywhere so it was consistent across everything. That's what my pending PR does, and I finally figured out how we can get... I've had this problem where in the CI we run out of space, but on my computer I don't, because I have a different version of GCC and the libraries. And Dan figured out that my version of live GCC in Arch Linux is .os compiled, which is for size, whereas the ARM provided ones compiled for O2, which is like faster but not smaller. I finally figured out how to I literally copied my live GCC from my computer into the repo, and for SAMD21s we'll use that, and that saves like 750 bytes. Which is pretty awesome. So, yeah, title bars will be coming to all of the stuff. All of the builds will have the title bar output. Dan had really good feedback about what I was putting the error line number in the top, and there's more. He thought it would be good to have the line number and the file name, which I was doing line number and the exception name. But makes more sense to do a file name, so I think I'll have to follow up with that. Maddie T says, I think if we were to add some compatibility for this in MicroPython, perhaps we'd implement it in MicroPython. A lot of it's already in Microbot. Thinking aloud. Yeah, you could do that. The reason that we do it natively in CircuitPython is because we want it to run all the time, not just when Python code's running. Right, like we want it to run independently of the user Python code. So, but it's like, yeah, for sure, just steal our code if you want. It's not great code, but it works. Thanks for hanging out, Patrick. Glad I could guest host. Deep dives won't be a regular thing, but I'll try to find a time for whatever I do next year that works for some folks. Okay, for SSL, Rich says, the reason I thought it was so important because many APIs only accept SSL requests, which is generally a good thing. Yeah, I'd love to do that. It's important, but it's difficult to get right and consumes resources. Yeah, I mean, we'll probably want SSL support. I don't know how it works with .local. I don't know how SSL works when you're talking about local devices. It's a gap in my knowledge. Ooh, I got a new dev board delivered. I'd rather, I take it mod micro WebSocket wasn't useful. I didn't look too much into it. I looked enough at WebREPL to know that it was like muxing file transfers over the WebSocket. There's literally an MDN page that's like how to write a WebSocket server. So yeah, Pierre says 750 bytes for the SAMD. Yeah, it's worth it. Maker Melissa asked in CircuitPython dev, Looking at web workflow CircuitPython code, it doesn't look like there's a way to provide an offset in order to write a partial file like we do with Bluetooth. Would this be something that would be difficult to implement? It wouldn't be that difficult to implement. It seems a lot less important to me. Hopefully she's watching. A lot less important to me because it's like Wi-Fi is much, much, much faster than BLE. We could do like, I don't know what the proper HTTP way of doing it is, but we could have a custom header to do it. But I would just send it all again. Like the Wi-Fi stuff is way quicker than BLE. I don't think it's that important. There is the like stuff to like pick up a download where you left off, which maybe you are watching. Great, thank you, Melissa. I don't know the right way to do it. I would say start an issue and we can look into it. We can certainly do it internally, right? Like, because we're doing it for BLE. Basically, you open the file to write, you seek into it, and then write from there. So we could do that, but that's a missing piece, and we don't have file reload. Neradoc also had the idea of doing WebDAV, but I haven't looked at, or I don't have an idea of how much of WebDAV we would have to implement to actually have it work. So we could do it, but I would do it without to start. But yeah, the MDN. Oh, I know what we should do. MDN WebSocket. These are definitely just like my resources. Where did they have a how-to? This is writing. I can't find it now. Writing WebSocket servers. HTTP range requests. Range offset is amazing for downloading over slow Wi-Fi. Yeah, we could look at that. That seems like it could be handy. Yeah, I'd say file an issue. I'm running out of time though, you have to understand that. The next 2 weeks I'm only working for 2 more weeks, and I'm taking a day off each week, at least. This is like overlap where both my partner and I are working, but we're gonna have some help to watch the kiddo. My partner's not working full time either. But I just gave a tour of the code. Somebody else could add it. About doing partial downloads when I check the board's libraries versions. Oh yeah, just like downloading the header. It's pretty quick though, right? Like, I guess if it's unreliable, resuming is nice. Family first, 100%. Okay, let's, since Neradoc linked me to this, let's clone it. CircuitPython web packager. We'll leave that open. Git clone Neradoc. Okay. Python web packager, Python M, HTTP server. See, that wasn't so bad. I'm so lazy. It's 8,000. Ah, but I want to go to workflow HTML. Ooh. Excited for me to have a long break. Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm excited to just, spend time with them. It's always unreliable because the entire web's duct taped together. Yeah, but like, it's pretty quick, and then most of the files are going to be deleted. Yeah, I like this warning. Ooh, how do I? Okay, there. This is the Odroid Go. Oh, look at those. Those are pretty. Library bundle. I want bitmap font. Boom. Install the dependencies. Status missing. Install. Yeah, my web skills are so basic. This is much nicer than everything I put together. It's going. I should have DevTools open. Heyo. Ooh, and it faded. Certain line number was 200 lines higher than the file I was looking at. Yeah, expecting failure is no fun. Neat. Okay, so if I go back to file browser and I look in lib, is it loading? Oh, there we go. Somehow it kicked me out to the wrong directory. But we can see Adafruit bitmap font, size 0 because it's a folder. I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, look at this. The Python, the snake icons. Neat. And so if I look back at the USB version, remember this is actually serial, but I can do import os, os.lister. We can see the stuff I uploaded, and then if we look at lib, oh, it's not, what? It's not in there. Where is it? Oh, this, I'm on the wrong device. Yeah, because we uploaded it to this device that is on the Wi-Fi. So we uploaded it here. That's not even plugged in. I'm still getting used to that. Yeah. It's helpful to find people that are good at things that you're not good at. Andy's been really helpful with the CSS stuff. And I'm excited to see all this stuff from Neradoc too. What's this last tab? Installer. Auto install. Ah, this is what looks for code.py. But my code.py doesn't have any missing stuff. Because it's just a print. See, that's that's where I kind of like not super up to date. Let's see. What else is there? Taking a nap. Any more questions? I could try to fix the one bug, but my brain's turning into mush. Oh, you know what I could show? How much? Since deep dives tend to be all about, have we synced with 119 yet? We have not. We want to focus on CircuitPython 8 before we do 119. Yeah, Neradoc says that'll be CircuitPython 9 because we'll have to do a major version bump. I'll have to do a major version bump with that. Interesting, using a prompt for what device you're on. Let me unplug this. Yeah, the MPY format. Okay, so I've been reinvigorated on the watch front. Part of the reason is that there's the Bangle JS 2 in this shop, which is this is off, but it's a watch that has an NRF 52840 in it. I want to add CircuitPython support for it, but I haven't gotten that far. I gotta get some things figured out. But the display in there is like a transflective color display. And so I went on Amazon and I looked and looked and looked and figured out that there's also this watch, which is an Amazfit BIP S Lite, that has a transflective display as well. And I was like, oh, like I just need to get this display so I can have it as on a breakout board. And so I opened it. So this is the front of the watch that I got. Obviously it's off, but it turns out the display is a different display. It says like, I'm not in product showcase mode. It says like some name of display. It says Giant Plus. So it's like a different type of transflected display, which is kind of a bummer. But I was looking at the FCC stuff, and here are the guts of that watch. Here, and there's this like canister, and in the FCC they take the canister off. And it's a dialogue Bluetooth chip, which I had not worked with it before. And I looked it up, and it's a DA1469 dialogue chip. It's an M33, and it has 512K of RAM, which is quite a lot. It's more than the NRF 52840. And it's in these BIP S lights, according to the FCC. I haven't taken the shell off yet, but I want to. And there's like test points on there that like one of those has to be SWD. And so it seems like it's definitely like CircuitPython capable. So yeah, I went a little like, I'll just port CircuitPython to it. I haven't started it yet. But it's on my radar. I bought a couple more of them so that I have ones that are kind of not torn apart. Yeah, RE doesn't have any ARI. And I also, sorry for smacking my lips, DigiKey has DA1469695. They have a dev board for it, so it just got delivered. This one here. And, two other things that I looked up about this chip. This is my job, right? My job is to port CircuitPython to new chips, so it's good that it's still tempting. Lady Ada does not want me to do this, I know that. Are these dialogue chips even on the radar of makers? I don't know. Does the watch have a heart rate monitor associated with it? I think it does. If you look at the back, like there's definitely like a window for some sort of sensor. So looking at that, I just got this dev board, which I could actually run and get, but yeah, I don't think they're on radar, but I did look. Nimble has support, which Nimble is the BLE stack that Espressif uses, which we're using on the ESP, which does have this problem that we don't have server support yet, which is unfortunate. And DigiKey doesn't actually have the chips in stock as well. Yeah, Keith, I actually got rid of my Wii balance boards, or there's one there. So yeah. I want to do the Bengal JS, which is neat, but then I got distracted by these watches. You can buy them. They're Amazfit BIP S lights. They're $40 a piece from them, and they're $50 off Amazon. I was looking at a Garmin, so I was like, have I spent more money than just buying the Garmin? But I'm like, this watch that I have now is a Garmin, and I really want to have be able to customize like how it notifies me of different things. So that's kind of my motivation. And I can't sleep with my watch on because the heart rate sensor, like sometimes I sleep with my watch on my face and it wakes me up. So I like want to be able to like customize it all. So yeah, I picked up one of these dev boards. I have lots of dev boards. Maybe I'll get to it. Did I finish my thought? I didn't finish my thought. Nimble has support for it already, and TinyUSB has support for it already. So yeah, that's a pretty good start. Like if TinyUSB already has support for it, that's pretty neat. Yeah, Mark says, almost every project I do, I realize it's cheaper to buy commercially. Oh yeah, and if you consider the time I spent on it, it's like certainly a time sink. Yeah, Maddie T says the TT Go T-Watch 2020 V3 is a good one too. Yeah, I need to order one of those. And Not Xor gave those away for, I'm sure you know this. TT Watch 2020 V3 is what they used in the And Not Xor badge for this year. And MicroPython's running on it. And if you don't know this, I'm shocked. And Not Xor MicroPython. What is the... Maybe they don't have it here. I don't remember where I saw it. It's like Brad Pitt. BradPitt.com. What actor is it? They have some random site, which is where the manual is. But yeah. Dylan says, if you get CircuitPython running on the watch, will you be able to do a write-up on it? Yeah, it'll be in the main line and you'll be able to install it. Like I'll do it properly. TTGo doesn't have the transflective displays though, which I do like. Ooh, electrodermal activity, which is heart rate. Neat. Apple Watch. I used to have an Apple Watch. The thing that bothered me is that it's a poor watch. Like, I want a watch that's a watch first. And then second, I want it to notify me when I get things on my phone. Which is why I like this one's pretty good because it's a Garmin that has like a watch face, and then if you tap it, like there's screens underneath the regular watch face. Which doesn't work that well, and you can't read the screen in the sun. Oh yeah, the Pine Time. I have that too. It's right here. This watch thing has been in the works for a while. I'm just like circled back to it. This one's a dev kit though. And it's, yeah. Yeah, I'm very much in the watch. Yeah, like I've got a number of them on my desk. But the Dialog has 512K of RAM, which is pretty awesome. And I don't think they're that expensive either. Like the chips aren't that, if you can manage to get them. So yeah, that might be my, like, I'm just going to touch this. I'm just going to go do this for fun. But my task in the last 2 weeks is really to get web workflow as far as I can and fix all the bugs. Like we have actually, you know what? I might have. It's yeah, I don't remember what it is. In my other browser. But if we look at issues and then milestones 8.0, like we have 52 open things. So there are plenty of bugs for me to hunt in the next 2 weeks. I will try my darndest not to do the Dialog chip even though I like starting with the tiny USB example is the place to go. LTT reviewed a pretty neat smartwatch not too long ago. Watch first, smart second looked like a watch too. Did it have the transflected display? Because my issue with this one is I can't see it in the sun. It's like some of the issues I have are like it doesn't show the notification for very long. It doesn't show the text of the notification by default, which is like all why I was like I'm not gonna get another Garmin. Like there's the Forerunners have the transflected displays, which are great, but if your software doesn't show your notification long enough, then that's not ideal. Hello, Randall. I don't think I said hi. Yeah, this is me just guest hosting. I'm not going to be doing this regularly for a bit more. But yeah, the BIP-S Lite looks kind of neat. And I know that Lady Ada has looked into sourcing some CircuitPython capable watches at some point too. So there's a chance in the future at some point we'll do CircuitPython watch officially. Okay. Yeah, lots of bugs. Move support I should probably do before I leave. What do I have assigned to me? I'm like closing like 5 with this next PR. Like I fixed this one. This one will be fixed. This one will be fixed. So, Thani, the Thani dev asked for a way to identify or correlate a serial port with a file system mount. And I just added to bootout.txt the UUID or the unique ID of the device, which you can get through the REPL as well. So you'd be able to match them up that way. This occasional disconnects, I think, are just network quality, which kind of is unfortunate. Title bar include file name I want to do, and title bar update after reset too. Oh yeah, I was actually gonna merge in this pull request if we can. Yeah, turn on title bar and enhance it. Can I merge it? Oh, it survived. Yes, I merged it. Okay, let's merge. Merge pull request. Because you know I like to merge things right before I stop working, right? So let's see. We had 9 open. Oh, if I refresh, 6 open. Yay. I never wanted a smartwatch until now, but a CircuitPython smartwatch is pretty tempting. Yeah, the other thing that's cool about, hey Anthony, the other thing I like the idea about CircuitPython watch is like we have BLE workflow now, so if it's BLE only watch, we still have a way to modify it, and then also if the TT Go is a ESP32, so like all the web workflow stuff we just saw would also apply for that, which would be really neat. I do have like an open source watch. This was like what? This one, I have this. It's an NRF, I think, from an Open Hardware Summit or something. I think this actually runs CircuitPython as well. Nerodoc says, did I mention TG Watch? I didn't. I haven't mentioned TG Watch yet. Ooh. Open source, not dumb. Yeah, TG Techie did this, didn't they? It's like BLE. I haven't. Thanks for the link. All right, any final questions? Hi, David. I don't know the next time I will stream, but if you want to connect up with me, the Discord's the way to do it. I'll be around the next 2 weeks. And then I will try to be off Discord as well when I'm on leave. Yeah, I'll try to avoid work email as well. This has been me hosting Deep Dive. Question for all. Very best instructions for experienced C and C++ dev. Get up to speed building Circuit Python. There is also, I think Dan linked you to this. docs.circuitpython.org. There's some, it's a little dated now, but there is project structure. This might be inherited. Oh no, this is updated. Project structure might be interesting. And I'm also thinking of like this adding IO support to other things. So it talks about file layout of the repo. But the network stuff that you're going to want to do is not simple. It's more like towards the socket pool, Wi-Fi radio stuff on ESP. Yeah. Adding network support is hard, and it's kind of like the first time that we've abstracted it away. Yeah, I think these are good reads still. All right. Let me switch cameras. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. This has been Deep Dive with Scott. You can check me out on the Discord, adafru.it/Discord. I'll be around there the next 2 weeks, and then I'll be gone for 12. Not gone as from here, but I will be offline, trying to stay offline. Although I will, Rich is talking about systems level being your happy place. I have a couple projects in mind. If I do find a little time while I'm gone, I might poke at some things. Either watches or FPGAs are kind of like top of my list. So maybe when I'm back, we'll have some cool stuff. I think USB host is on the docket for when I'm back as well, depending on where web workflow is. Yeah, if you want to support me, you can go to adafruit.com and purchase some hardware there. Adafruit pays me to do these streams. They pay me to work on CircuitPython, and they are also paying me to take leave. Not all of it, but most of it. What else? That's adafruit.com. If you want to check out CircuitPython, you can do circuitpython.org. Hit the downloads link, and you'll see all the different boards that are supported for that as well. And yeah, I should pet the cats like I normally do, shouldn't I? It's been great hanging out. I really appreciate you all. I'll see you on the Discords. Have a good fall if I don't see you before I take leave. And please, if you find bugs or have suggestions, CircuitPython issues are the way to go with that as well. Maddie, FPGAs are higher on your list too. So the one that I'm really interested in, let me see if I can nerd snipe you a little bit, is this one. I think it's this one. It's the Zinc. So the Zinc is a Xilinx 7 series, but it's also got a hard Cortex-A, like quad Cortex-A in it, and hard USB IP, hard I2C and bus IO, or not bus IO, I2C and SPI. So theoretically, we could get CircuitPython bare metal on the hard IP, and then do some cool hybrid FPGA stuff there too. So that's why I'm interested in that. Okay, time to switch cameras, pet some kitties, and get out of here. Have a great weekend, everybody. Cat cam. Cat cam. Hi. Can I pet you? I think it's pretty rare, actually, that Vin is here still. I have a QuickLogic ES S3, and it doesn't have hard USB, which is disappointing for me. I asked them about that. Like, you could put USB on the FPGA, but then you're basically filled up the FPGA. So we'll see. We're moving away from the strict USB dependence, so time will tell. All right. With that, I'll sign off and see you all in the future and on the Discords. Have a great time.